What's up, YouTube automators? So now we are in the AVD section under understanding virality. So you're about to be learning how to increase your average view duration. By now, you're a master at CTR. You fully understand how to get titles and thumbnails that get millions of people to click. You're a master at CTR, and for that, let me go ahead and clap it up for you. But that's only 50% of the pie. You have the first viral metric, which is CTR, but there's that second viral metric, which is AVD. What good is getting millions of people to click if millions of people aren't watching your videos to the very end? See, YouTube isn't gonna like it if people are clicking on your video, but they're not watching it. Why? Because the YouTube algorithm has one goal. Let's go back to ground zero, what we first learned inside of understanding virality. YouTube's goal is to keep people on the platform. That's what YouTube wants. YouTube wants as many people watching as many videos to the very end as possible, because that means that there's a lot of people that are staying on the platform, which is a lot of people watching ads and a lot of people loving YouTube, which makes YouTube even more money, grows their evaluation, and grows their company. So that's what YouTube is shooting for. So let's take that theory and let's go and throw it into like real life. So let's imagine you upload a video with the same title and thumbnail as someone else in your niche. And your video is 10 minutes long and their video is 10 minutes long. So it's the exact same video, carbon copy. Let's just give this example with the title, thumbnail, and length. But the content's different. And your content is so much better that you have people, on average, watch 8 minutes out of the 10 minutes. And the other person in your niche only gets people to watch 2 minutes out of the 10 minutes. Well, who do you think YouTube's gonna promote more? They're obviously gonna promote you because you have people watching 8 minutes. Well, why? It's because that's an extra 6 minutes that people on YouTube, versus if they promoted this, that's 6 minutes less that people will be on YouTube. So YouTube has their goal fulfilled by promoting your video. You see, that is the goal of having a high average view duration. It's making YouTube love you. That way it shows your videos to even more people, because you're doing them a solid favor and you are keeping people on the platform. You're doing them a solid. It's like being friends with a multi-billionaire and you provide them so much value, they say, you know what, I'm just gonna write you a check. I'm gonna go ahead and anything you need, you let me know. YouTube's the exact same way. If you keep people on the platform, YouTube's like, I got your back, I'll promote you, I'll show you to millions of people, I'll even cut you checks. Just keep producing content that people watch to the end, because that means more people on YouTube, which helps our overall ROI. See, that is the power of average view duration. It's getting people to watch to the end and making YouTube love you. Well, for CTR, there's two components. There's titles and thumbnails. But what is the component of AVD? What causes a high AVD? Because if you have a great title and thumbnail, it gets a lot of people to click. But what gets people to watch to the very end? Well, it's the video itself. It's the content. So if you want to raise your average view duration, the same way if you want to raise your CTR, you got to focus on the title and thumbnails. Well, if you want to raise your average view duration, there's only one thing to focus on. They made it even a little bit more simple than CTR. It's just the content itself. You have to create really great content. If you create great content, then people will watch to the end. So what's the goal of content? Well, that's what this video is about right now. And we're gonna be talking about the goal of content. That way in this section, when we dive into how to raise your average view duration, it makes sense why we're doing the things we're doing with your content. So what's the goal of content? Well, I feel like I've made it pretty clear. The goal of content is getting people to watch to the very end, because if you do that, the algorithm will love you. Well, let's go and flip this for a second. If the goal of content is to get people to watch to the very end, then what is the opposite of the goal of content? What are you trying not to do with your content? Well, you're trying not for people to not watch to the end. That's what you're trying not to do. You're trying to get it to where no one exits out to your video and they watch to the very end. So the opposite of the goal of content is people clicking off of your video too soon. That is what you're hoping not to do. Now, what happens if someone clicks off your video? Why would someone click off of your video and not watch to the very end? Well, it's because you lost their attention. That's why. If someone's a minute into your video and they're kind of like looking off in the distance and they're thinking some other thought and they're looking at other suggested videos and maybe they exit out real quick and respond to a quick text and have something pulled up, they're watching on a laptop, they're texting someone on their phone, looking at Instagram. If you lose their attention, you're gonna lose the viewer. That's how it's gonna work. So if someone's not enthralled in your video, loving the content you're creating, and you don't have their attention, they're not gonna have their attention and they're gonna exit out the video and go watch something else. So the real goal of content is to make sure you don't lose people's attention. So the goal is this, it's to maintain attention. That is what I want you guys thinking about. Because the real goal is to get people to watch to the end. The way you do that is you maintain their attention. If you maintain their attention throughout the entire video, you get people to watch to the end. So let's simplify it. The goal of content is to maintain attention. And that's what this section is gonna be about. That's what this entire AVD section is we're gonna be making it to where you maintain people's attention. Now, here's the deal. You can have pretty good content and you may have people's attention, but if other people in your niche have better content than you, then they're gonna steal that attention. It's kind of like if I pulled out $10,000 and handed it to you. I'd probably have your attention, right? Because it's valuable. It's $10,000. If I gave you $10,000 for no reason, you'd probably listen to me blab on for an hour. You'd have my back, you got me. But then imagine someone else comes up and I'm literally going to hand you $10,000 and then they tap you on the shoulder and hand you a check. And on that check, it has $1 million. $1 million is written on that check. Well, whose attention has you now? Even though I produced a very valuable thing to you, I gave you $10,000, the person that's giving you $1 million has your attention now because it's even more valuable. It's the same thing. You can create good content, but if you don't create content where you maintain attention more than anyone else in your niche, you're not going to be the number one in your niche. But luckily, you have YTA. What we're going to be talking about in this section is how you can maintain attention more than anyone else in your niche. That way, YouTube has to show your videos to millions upon millions of people, and you are guaranteed to end up making money if you can maintain attention the proper way. Now, how do you maintain attention? Well, there's really two ways you maintain attention. The first way is people enjoy watching your content. Like, you ever been watching a movie and you just weren't into it? You get 10 minutes in and you don't really like vibe with the content. You're not liking the storyline. The actors aren't doing well. You're just kind of like, this doesn't seem like a good movie. And you exit out and go watch another movie. I know that happens to me all the time. Me and my friends will be watching a movie and we'll watch the first 10 minutes. Actually, this is what my dad does the most. He'll watch 10 minutes of a movie and he'll be like, we'll decide if we like it. And if he doesn't like it within 10 minutes, he exits out and goes to something else. Well, a movie where 10 minutes in, we didn't enjoy the content, we didn't enjoy the movie, well, they probably had a really low average view duration of us. Like, we didn't watch the movie to the end. But the movies have the highest average view duration, which means people watch to the very end of the movie. It's purely because people are enthralled in the movie. They're captivated by it. They love the acting, the storyline. It just has them enthralled. It's the exact same thing for YouTube, but on a smaller scale. If you want people to watch to the end, they have to enjoy the content that they're consuming. If they enjoy it, they'll keep watching it. But if they're bored and it's okay and it's a kind of mediocre, and they're probably going to click off and you're not going to get them to watch to the very end. That's the first reason, is people enjoy the content. The second reason is you hook them to the end. That's the second reason why someone will watch your content. I've watched movies before and it was kind of an okay movie. It wasn't necessarily my favorite movie. Obviously it wasn't bad, but it wasn't my favorite movie. But I watched it to the very end purely because there was something in the first 10 minutes of the movie that hooked me to the end. I just had to know the answer. So I kind of went through some scenes that were kind of fluffy a little bit. I didn't necessarily like them just because I was waiting to figure out the answer to what they hooked me for in the beginning. And that's another reason why people watch your content. But if you can do both, if you can hook people to the end in the very beginning and be hooking them throughout the video to where they continue to want to watch to the end, and if you can also make sure while they're watching it, they enjoy the content, then you're gonna maintain attention more than anyone else out there. You're gonna be the number one in your niche, and it's gonna be guaranteed that your videos go viral. And that's, once again, what we're gonna be talking about inside this section. We're literally gonna be going over how you can literally appeal to the chemicals in people's brains to, number one, and cause them to enjoy the content that you're putting out there, but number two, cause them to watch to the very end. Now, I'm gonna give you guys a quick method to follow and a quick philosophy behind creating content that if you follow, it's gonna make it really, really easy to maintain attention when you're producing content. We're also gonna relay this method to your video editor as well, and to your entire team. That way, when they're creating videos, they're following this method as well. And it's called the ADD method. You see, I noticed that the number one YouTubers I've come across that keep people's attention the most, that maintain them to the absolute end, you wanna know what they all think? They all imagine that the videos they're creating are for people with severe ADD. They literally say, if someone was watching this, that had an intense amount of ADD, they were jittery and they were looking all over the place, how can I captivate their attention? Because if I can captivate someone's attention that has ADD, it's guaranteed I captivate everyone's attention. And see, that's the philosophy we want every single YouTube automator doing when they're creating content, as well as your team, is we want your team literally creating videos. Imagine people have ADD, because guess what? The majority of people, when it comes to content, do have ADD. Even if they don't actually have ADD, the majority of them do, because nowadays, in 2020, in the day and age we live in, there's so much content out there. Like I said, you can be giving someone $10,000 worth of content, but someone else is giving $1 million worth of content, that's gonna capture their attention. So literally, people are so jittery. There's millions of videos they can go watch on YouTube. 1.8 trillion views go out every single year on YouTube. That's a lot of views to go around. People are constantly, they can be going on any video on YouTube at all that are all really, really good with click-through rate and all really, really good content. So it's important that you literally create your content for someone with severe ADD. And if they would watch it to the end, then anyone will watch it to the end. Not to mention, nowadays, you don't even just have to compete with other videos on YouTube, but you're competing with Instagram, you're competing with Netflix, you're competing with Facebook, you're competing with video games, you're competing with other people's friends when they text and call, you're competing with all this stuff. That's why it's so vital that you literally treat every single viewer as if they have ADD. In fact, someone I see do this really, really well is one of my good friends, Jake Paul. I bring him up all the time. Why? Because Jake Paul's a master of YouTube. He knows what he's doing. He gets millions of people to watch his videos to the very end. He actually has one of the highest average view durations out of anyone I've ever come across, which is crazy Because guess who his viewers are? A lot of his viewers are young kids who lose attention insanely fast. Literally, if 5 seconds of the video isn't like speedy and entertaining and enthusiastic and cuts and flashy, then that little 10-year-old kid or 13-year-old kid is gonna like not pay attention anymore and go watch something else. So here's the way that Jake thinks about creating videos. And I'll sit down with him and like when he's doing his vlogs, and I was in a few of them, and I was just kind of like analyzing how he creates his content, how he does these videos that are 12 minutes long, 20 minutes long, but get all these people, millions of people to watch to the very end. I was like, what's your philosophy? He said, well, I watched the video, and if the video I'm producing at any moment has any 5-second time span that is not massively entertaining, I cut it out. He said, even if it's good content, but it's not insanely entertaining for literally a little kid or someone with ADD, then I'll cut it out. So he's following the ADD method. Now there's a reason why this is really important, because the goal is average view duration. And a lot of times people think, okay, if I want a high average view duration, then I need to think about the entire 10-minute video that I'm producing. But the truth is, you don't need to be thinking about the entire 10-minute video you're producing. You need to be thinking about all of the 10-second time spans in that 10 minutes. And here's why. Imagine someone in the first minute of your video, it's extremely captivating. But then a minute to a minute and 10 seconds is dull and boring and no longer entertaining. But then from a minute, 10 seconds to the rest of the 10-minute video is massively entertaining. Well, in that 10-second time span, from a minute to a minute, 10 seconds, then someone could lose attention and click off your video. So although you have a 10-minute video that's unbelievably captivating for 9 minutes and 50 seconds, that 10 seconds is the difference between a minute average view duration and a 10-minute average view duration. See, that's the importance. If you lose people's attention in the beginning of the video, then you're not just losing their attention in the beginning of the video, you're losing their attention for the entire video because they're gonna click off and go to something else. So it's important that not at a single moment in a video is your video dull. Not one dull moment in your video. Now we're gonna train your video editors and your team and your script writers to make sure that every single second of the video is captivating, from what they're saying, to the content they're producing, to the video that are being edited, the footage, the photos, the flash. We're gonna make sure they follow the ADD method. But I want you guys understanding this as you're creating your videos. That way you can watch them and say, is any moment of this dull? Is any moment of this not captivating? And if it is, you want to cut that out completely, because that could be the difference between a 2-minute average view duration and a 10-minute average view duration. And this is a mistake I see a lot of people make, is they're like, well, my video is really entertaining. And I'm like, yeah, but is there any, like, they're like, why is my average view duration low if my video is so entertaining? I'm like, is there any time in there where it's not entertaining? They're like, yeah, there's this 30-second clip in the middle, but that doesn't really matter. The entire video is entertaining. But it's like, yeah, but for one person, that 30 seconds is the entire video during that 30 seconds, if that makes sense. So I can continue to go on about this, but I mainly want you guys to understand this concept, because what we're gonna be doing inside this average view duration section is we're literally gonna be showing you guys how to maintain people's attention throughout the entire video so that they watch to the very end. In fact, I'm gonna be giving you guys something called the dopamine framework, which talks about how to use the chemical in people's brains called dopamine to make them want to watch to the very end and for them to be entertained throughout the entire thing. So don't worry, we're going to show you guys how to make sure that you're following the ADD method, that you're maintaining attention, that you're getting people to watch the end. But in this video, it's important that you walk away understanding the vitality, the importance that every single second is captivating. That way you can raise your average view duration, which raises the amount of people that see your video, which raises the amount of people the algorithm pushes your video out to, which raises how much money that you make. That is the goal. Now, what I want to go do right now is I want to actually play a clip from a Zoom call that I did with Devin for you guys with YTA. I was picking his brain about average view duration. I was asking him, what is the average view duration that people should strive for? Check this out. Okay, Devin, what average view duration do you recommend?
So I recommend for, if you were to put out like a 10-minute video, I recommend that you get on average about 6 minutes of watch time. It seems around like that 60% average view percentage. If you get it around 60%, YouTube will like do something with your content. And if you combine that with a really good, like a banger thumbnail and a banger title, you're going to have a video that's going to be able to really take off and go viral. If you can really master like the view duration and the click-through rate. There's a couple other factors that are important as well, but these two metrics, they're really what essentially moves you up and down the scale on YouTube for your success. So if you can try to strive around like getting people to, like the other metric as well is if you can get 75% of your audience to at least through the first 60 seconds of your video. So basically through the intro and into the content, and then getting the rest of them all the way through and hopefully getting to at least the average person at 60%, that video should get a lot of views. You combine that with a good thumbnail and you should have a viral video. So take that advice with however you want, and you're going to be able to produce content that's going to get millions of views.
So Devin literally says the average view duration you should be striving for is 60%. That means that your goal should be to get people to watch 60% of your video at least. If you can do that, you're gonna go viral. But think about it. If you want to get 60% of people to watch your video, people are busy. Even if you have a perfectly entertaining video, someone might get a phone call in the beginning. So really what you're striving for is 100% average view duration. If you strive for 100% average view duration, you're probably gonna hit 60%. And if you hit 60%, you're going to go viral. So what we're gonna be talking about in this section is how to hit that 60% average view duration, because you are just one video away.